You know, we knew a pandemic was coming long before the COVID-19. In fact, we saw two dress rehearsals, SARS and MERS, which are both coronaviruses, not to mention, of course, Ebola. So why weren't we ready? Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. And Merrick in West Hills, California. Hey, Merrick, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for all you do. I wonder if anybody is aware or you're aware of the fact that in October of 2019, there was a tabletop mock pandemic at Johns Hopkins University that was labeled the coronavirus mock pandemic. And there they had all kind of predictions. But if we had that kind of foreknowledge that this was occurring and our government took place, Big Pharma, government, WHO, NIH, all took place in this tabletop mock pandemic. If we had that much forenotice that there was an impending pandemic, we should have been way prepared. And the fact that we are not using WHO test kits is a travesty, and it shows that we are under the thumb of disaster capitalism, where corporations and Big Pharma are trying to gain, trying to
gain profits. So that's what they're trying to do, Merrick. Yeah, spot on. And here's the thing: we shouldn't. And Merrick, thank you. Your point is really well made, and it's an important one. And let me take it to the next step. This was, I'm not familiar with this particular tabletop thing, but that they would do it with a coronavirus, that whole family of viruses. That's where SARS is. That's where MERS is. MERS is the camel virus. It's got a 40% fatality rate that's in the Middle East right now. SARS is the one that we stopped back in, I think it was 2009. It might have been earlier than that. Maybe it was 2003. The one that came out of, again, bats out of Asia. And by the way, Trump keeps saying this is a Chinese virus. It came from China. No, it came from bats, you idiot. They just happened to be in China. But in any case, after those two coronavirus crises, particularly after the second one, and the H1N1 flu, the possibility that we were going to have a flu pandemic. This was in 2009 when President Obama was president, his first year. We were looking at a flu pandemic that might kill millions, just like it did back in 1919. And Obama put together two pandemic response teams that would have to do with national security. How do we deal with this? How do we deal with foreign countries? What are all the political and logistical things? And that was over in the National Security Council. And the second one that would coordinate the activities of our health agencies, that would coordinate the activities of our police agencies who may have to enforce things like quarantines, and that would work with hospitals and research agencies and bring in the CDC. That one was over in the Department of Homeland Security. We had these two teams in place. Obama put them in place in 2009. Donald Trump gets elected in 2016. He gets sworn in 2017. A year later it was later in 2017. That year, on the advice from one of these right-wing think tanks funded by right-wing billionaires, Donald Trump disbanded both of those agencies and fired all their staffers. Now, what those agencies did on an ongoing basis with their government paychecks that the right-wing billionaires thought was a waste of their tax dollars, what these agencies did with this was they did just exactly what you just described. They would strategize, they would plan, they would have regular exercises out in the field. There was also, and Richard Trumka pointed this out, and this was insane. Richard Trumka pointed this out yesterday on CNN. The president of the AFL-CIO, that the Occupational Safety and Health Administration had guidelines that were put into place by the Obama administration in the last year of the Obama administration that were supposed to take effect in 2017, the first year of the Trump administration, that said that every hospital in America had to have enough masks and personal protective gear to deal with a pandemic, to deal with a real crisis. And that employers, this was limited to large employers, but large employers across the United States similarly had to have pandemic planning in place and equipment for pandemics, including masks and respirators and gloves, in place. And Trump did away with these regulations, which had not yet been implemented. He was supposed to put them into place. He did away with them because he said it will cost industry and the for-profit hospital industry too much money. Honest to God. That's what Richard Trumka said yesterday on CNN. We're trying to get him on the program to give us more on the details. But I mean, this, you say, gee, you know, Johns Hopkins was doing tabletop planning on coronavirus in October of last year. Well, they were doing it because the federal government, who really should be doing it. You know, a university can't deal with a nationwide pandemic. It's something that literally requires the federal government. Andrew Cuomo made this point this morning on Fox, CNN, and MSNBC on his morning, you know, our new president of the United States, acting president of the United States, Andrew Cuomo, Governor Cuomo, he made this point this morning. He said, I used to be in Bill Clinton's cabinet. I know what, and I'm the governor of one of the largest states in the country. He said, I know what a governor can do, and I know what the federal government can do. And there are some things that he said, I can quarantine 10,000 people. Actually, he was making it, his daughter was sitting next to him. He was talking about how your kids don't always take your advice. He said, I can quarantine 10,000 people, but, you know, I can't necessarily quarantine my daughter, or words to that effect. But he said, you know, I know that there are some things that I can't do as a governor. Only the federal government can do them. I can't commandeer the Army Corps of Engineers to build a hospital facility next door to a hospital. I can't use, you know, he went through some of these powers. And tragically, the Washington Post had a piece day before yesterday about how inside the Trump administration, you've got these two teams, the Pence team and the Jared Kushner team. The Jared Kushner team, Jared's brother owns this big health insurance company and is heavily invested, which is heavily invested in by the Google company that Trump was talking about from the White House a couple of days ago. So Kushner's looking for ways to make money on this. And his brother-in-law is asking for advice on Facebook that is channeled now into the White House. And Mike Pence is dealing with it like a PR problem. But nobody's actually dealing with it like a government problem. Trump comes out and says the right words. Oh, it's a whole government response. BS.